Wake up and deliver.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Going live. Do it live now. And we're live.
Just like that.
Just like that. And this week we don't have our favorite listener. I'm heartbroken.
Ooh, that's bad. It's funny though, right? Like it's like, oh, and we're live, and like here you and I are scrambling, having all kinds of issues this morning. So just for the people out there, there's always a little lipstick on a pig because there's all kinds of craziness going on trying to get this working this morning. Sometimes LinkedIn is I don't know what it's doing. Like you had to reboot, I had to log out, like very strange.
Yeah, and David is joining us as soon as he can fix his tech issues. He has microphone problems too, something with his drivers. As always, thanks everybody for joining. This is episode 19 of Wake Up and Deliver. I don't have that fancy voice that John puts on our YouTube channel, so you're gonna bear with my Wake Up and Deliver this morning. I thought we'd start off on a lighter note with all the issues. John, as always, is here co-hosting with me. I'm going to start off with some morning coffee. I had three really good ones, John. I really don't know which one to pick. I don't want to do all three.
I thought you got like one of these a week. Are you hunting them now?
No, I have lots of them. I just have to pick of my favorite, and all of them are really good this week. But I think I've settled, and this is to consider John's take on it. The person who carefully designs the routine goes further than the person who negotiates with themselves every day. Let inertia work for you.
Yeah, man, I agree. Funny enough, actually, I saw a post the other day by one of these popular influencer type people who I'm not, I'm mixed bag on sometimes what's posted, but he actually had a really good point that, sometimes people just say stuff just for the engagement, right? But I thought he was true, actually. His whole position on it was, everyone sort of sees the glam and the lifestyle and all of the success that people have. And, his point was, the reality behind that is the discipline and the routine and that boringness of like the routine. And the people that are often very successful are the ones that can just do the routine and they don't need like that special motivation, or they don't need those last minute negotiations all the time. They have their plan and they cut through it, and they have that dedication and discipline to do it all the time. And I think that's relevant and relates to what you just shared there.
Yeah, I think that's actually relates to a lot of things we've been talking about lately, because, we were just talking about the grind of posting every day or putting up content every day, and sometimes it doesn't resonate. Sometimes on Wake Up and Deliver, we only have our one favorite listener on, and sometimes we have a lot more. and it's hard, but once you do kind of hit like a good rhythm, it does pull through. It just takes that consistency you can't be a one-hit wonder right off the top. And I think a lot of people...
For sure. Like, I mean, even funny things too, right? Like I've talked to you about, you know a lot more of the of the challenges behind my newsletter than anybody, right? In terms of like the effort and the time and stuff that goes into it. And it's so bad because like sometimes it's like you put in all of this effort and you're doing the same thing. Some weeks people love it. Like the one yesterday got all kinds of new subscribers, and sometimes there's none. Sometimes people like will leave and you're like, it kills you because you're putting into you're putting in all of this effort, and you're doing those routines, and sometimes it gets those really strong feedback loops, and other times it's getting a lot less, and it's hard to stay the course because people have a tendency to want to jump like, oh, something's broken, I've got to fix it, which isn't really always the case. It's just that I think expecting to always have the same results all the time is probably the fallacy that people fall into.
Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, it's the same thing in logistics, because we run on the same schedule all the time. We do the same things over and over and over again, and eventually, some things just don't happen the way we want them to happen. But when we do, it's not as big and glamorous, right? I was talking to actually one of my carriers the other day, and he was out running around in his delivery van, and he had to, as a dispatch, like the manager had to run out and do a whole bunch of deliveries. And he pulled an all day, like he was just running around everywhere. I'm like, he goes, how do you feel? He goes, oh man, I'm tired. I'm like, you do that for all one customer? I'm like, yeah. I bet you at the end of the day, he's going to ask you, why were you late? And he doesn't realize all the work that you put into it behind it, and then just to kind of be like, you did all this work, you don't get that glamorification that you do in other things. But Robert, welcome up. We haven't heard from you in a while. I thought you raised your hand. What would you like to say
Robert,
today?
yeah, Robert, you were on my post this morning. Are you coming to kill me on the post?
Well, he's muted.
You're still muted, just FYI.
Oh, heck no, John. Your post was right on money.
Thank you. I like that one. I was actually very surprised. That one came from a personal experience on Saturday. I ordered something and I was like, what is this?
Well, it's a great idea. It really is. It's got its downsides. And I drew a long analogy to the lawn sprinkler, but you know me, I'm always tying delivery back to utilities or something similar. But it's a little harder to join you lately because your 9 a.m. start time is same as another podcast.
Are you picking someone else over us now?
Ooh, I know.
But now I'm out of favor.
Like, what else is going on? Like, who's got this show?
So I like to keep in touch, but I dropped a link in the comments here because recent developments. So I'm an invited presenter finally in Manhattan, and I'll be at a New York Tech Alliance Robotics meetup Monday night, giving a presentation.
Nice. Congratulations.
And the other presenters have all raised multi-million dollars, and I'm still bootstrapped. So it feels good to be rubbing elbows. So I just wanted to throw that up by trying to boost it a little bit. And I want to let you know that I got invited. I submitted a pitch paper, and it took 2 days to get an answer. I'm invited to make a full phase 1 application to the National Science Foundation for a significant grant. And I need that because I've got funding to carry me halfway through next year, and then it's really back to some serious digging into my own pocket, to keep development going. So,
well, you know what, you're betting on yourself, and I mean that's always uncomfortable. I mean, even kind of goes to what Matt said this morning to start. But I honestly think that there's so much attention around last mile, people looking for new solutions, and people looking to broaden things out, because not everyone is. Well, I say not everyone, like it's even a possibility. The reality is almost no one could ever build anything of scale that would be similar to models that are already existing today. And, those models need a certain level of density to thrive. So there's room and need for alternatives and things that really take a look at the problem differently. So I am confident that you guys will get some attention for sure. Very positive attention.
Well, it's great to hear. And you guys, the plural, that's correct. I made my first payroll was Friday of last week, and I signed the checks for 3 part-time employees, and that's a first for me.
Congratulations. That's a big one.
Yeah. My goal is to get these guys to full-time. And
there you go.
So I'm going to do everything I can to hit more funding in time.
Well, very good. Well, so you posted the link. If there's anything else you want to post, go ahead there. And, happy to follow. I think everyone should be watching the news. So thank you for sharing and coming up and giving everyone a bit of an update.
Thanks for having me. I've got to cut out because I've got to get ready to go to the shop. Now that I've got employees, I can't make flexible plans.
So now you got work to do. You're accountable.
Right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
Funny enough, just on that about like the shop or whatever, like my daughter, I was taking her to school this morning and she was saying something about school. And I find a lot of the kids these days not, are like, oh, school's not so fun, which is crazy to me. I'm like, guys, you should be loving it, because trust me, like
you thought school was fun, John? So these kids these days are different from you. Come on.
Come on. If you think about it realistically, going to see your friends every day, being at school and whatever, like that's totally a different world than work, where like, anyways, my point being is that I think it's definitely a more fun. And she was like, well, you do so much work from home and you're remote and it's this and it's so much cooler. I'm like, it's way harder than you think, my man. Like, I'm like, you really have to appreciate the fact that it takes, you know, a lot of focus and discipline and all of these things and grinding, right? So to your point, right, about logistics in general or any work, like it takes a lot to have any kind of success.
Yeah, it's a lot of a mental game, right? Like the challenges of any startup or consulting or business or anything, a lot of it is your own self-motivation. I think it gets a little bit harder when you're on your own because you have to self-motivate, or when you're away from the team. I think that's, you know, we talked about it, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, about, you know, return back to the office. There's no, like, what's the real push? But at the same time, that office mentality, that group mentality that kind of lifts you up when you're kicking yourself when you're down is also quite helpful on the mental game, right? Because when you're on your own, you're like, oh shit, I didn't get that client, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, and you start beating yourself up, and you shouldn't, right? I mean, everything is a, you know, perseverance, and you got to keep trying different things and adjusting slightly every time.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like you and I especially, and I mean, I know Kat too, because she's jumped in, but the highs and lows of like the, let's call it entrepreneurship or small business or whatever is wild. Like I've had some days where it's like you're so pumped and everything feels like it's going so good, and then all of a sudden it's like you have these other days where a bunch of things just collapse together, and you're like, oh my God. And you're right, it takes so much to keep, you know, pushing and working through. So I think that that's super cool. I know that we're still waiting, hopefully, on our guest who's going to join. But before we do, did you have anything you want to jump in? Because I'd love to get your take on this new Amazon feature that I saw all over the weekend.
You know, I want to talk about this Amazon feature because I think it's quite cool. So let's jump into that first.
All right. So I am making a purchase on Saturday. Just random stuff, right? And funny enough, this is actually after trying to find, you know, these little knick-knacky things at like stores and like, you know, Walmart or whatever, and couldn't find out. So annoying. So anyways, I'm buying it on Amazon, make the purchase. And as I go down, I see they split the shipment. So the second they split the shipment, I'm like, okay, well, these are super unimportant things. Like, I'm going to group them. And when I was looking at the two shipments, one of them had no options, which was weird, other than like it's just coming today, I guess. And the other one, though, was like, this was Saturday, so it was like you get it Sunday. And then there were all these other options under it where it said pick your day. And it had like a full week almost. Like it went from the Tuesday, which is tomorrow, so I guess the 8th, all the way to the 12th. I could just pick whatever.
Listening. It's like they're listening, John. They're finally changing it.
Yeah, actually, if Amazon, you are listening, like let's go. We'll get something going if you are listening to these ideas. But you know, I've been sharing about that forever, about this need that people really want certainty more than speed, and that speed with delivery has just been like a cheap, you know, kind of way to meet that. Because if you promise me a delivery in an hour, you've got a lot less ambiguity around like how that is going to impact your day or whatever. Being able to pick it though is super interesting. And Robert had made a comment on my post about the fact of like, well, isn't this just kind of like a timer? You just release the order on time. And on the surface, that's all it might seem like. And if you really had enough inventory, that could be true. But the reality is that if you're going to actually allow people to go through the transaction, hit buy, they figure it's theirs, they're going to get it. You take the promise of their day. The only real way that you can guarantee that promise now is to actually segregate or remove that inventory, whether it's actually physically removing it and picking it early, or systematically and programmatically, like dropping it into a bucket so that, you know, the next order that comes in doesn't believe that the same inventory level is there. So it's actually more complicated than people think. But Amazon obviously is extremely well positioned to do it because of the fact that they're actually holding the inventory and not just the delivery, which is probably one of the biggest challenges for a lot of regional players who might want to try it. But either way, I thought it was super cool because that is going to grind people if that becomes the new standard of like, well, I should be able to pick my day up to a week or two in advance. Do
you think that they're actually removing the inventory from one section of the warehouse and putting it into another?
Yeah, I do actually. And why? I think that whether I think that that's a long-term strategy or not, but the reason, there's a couple of things. So on the two products that I purchased, it was only available on one group and not the other. So to me, that makes me think that they're only doing it right now from certain warehouses and not others. It's possible that the inventory was just completely allocated in different warehouses, and they're not going to try to merge the orders. But I actually think they're more testing it, because I tried to Google this yesterday and Perplexity it. I tried both just to make sure, because the last thing I wanted to do is make this video being like amazing feature, and like some guys, like I've had that for a year and a half. But I checked everywhere that I could think of to try to see if people were seeing this feature, and no one was talking about it this way. They let you schedule big and bulky and all kinds of other things, but this was so far the other way. These things were like envelope level stuff, right?
It's like,
I couldn't find it.
We talked about like before. It's like the old layaway system almost, right?
Yeah, but again, like it is. But that's why I think they're actually picking it, because the thing is, like, Amazon focuses too much on efficiency and productivity and all of these things, and I don't think that they're going to want to kind of, I'll say, contaminate their entire pick face or their whole, picking system by having all of this inventory that's essentially locked for customers. Because one, that's going to impact your inbound, right? It becomes less locations that you can rebin, because Amazon uses very dynamic binning. They like, oh, there's a hole there. That's where those socks go. They don't do it like a lot of traditional 3PLs, where it's like very like structured in terms of the way that they bin. And they do that because they have wicked
it's more randomized. Yeah.
Much more randomized and always about, prioritizing the speed, right? Like if that guy can do a put away and it's 30 seconds versus 90, because like the closest bin is 30 seconds away, that's what's going to happen. But you don't want to necessarily then lose all of those opportunities, because, as that type of program grows, you're going to have a higher and higher percentage of orders that would be kind of locked into then your inventory pick faces. And I don't think they'd want it. So that's why I think that they are picking it in advance. And then part of the reason why I think it only came up with certain products as not others is because I think they're testing it right now at certain warehouses. Because, you would need some kind of, pick to delay location or something like that, for example, to, to stage these orders. So I think that is why they're doing something like that. So I see, Matt, you dropped down for a second, so I'm going to give you a second. But that is why I think that it's super interesting for them to be doing it, because they would need some kind of way to stage it.
LinkedIn is kicking me out again.
I saw.
So I missed a good chunk, but I'm sure it was like I was going to say is, you don't think that, like, even I know you said that different warehouses, they're using specific warehouses, but do you think they're using less efficient areas if they put stuff away for that product to be sitting? I can't see them touching it again, because increasing the touch of a product increases the cost of it, right? Like, why would I pick it and move it and then pick it and move it again, versus I can be this is allocated in some dead area. Let's use that product that's in that dead area.
Just because of the fact that I think it becomes a trade-off, because if you end up getting either more sales, if you end up getting, more revenue flowing through because people can now buy every time it pops into their head. The other thing is too, I would just challenge like the concept of like extra touches being a cost. Like for sure that's true, but at what point does it become like maybe an acceptable part of your offer? I mean, Amazon is so automated and they have so much robotics and so many different things. I don't know if they would have as much of a concern with the extra touches, because, a lot of that mentality came from, hey, Bob's got to like pick an order, and Bob's got this like walk path and travel path, and he's going back and forth and he's moving it around. I just don't think that they would have as many of the same concerns. Not saying that it's still not a factor. I just don't think it's as heavily weighted as it would have been in the past.
So you're saying because it's automated and robotics, it's not actual physical people walking, there's an acceptable touch loss.
Yeah, for sure. Like if I were designing something, like to me, if it's like, hey, if I can offer this and it ends up costing me 4 cents, is it worth it? Like 100%.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, what's it really going to cost me? What's it really going to impact me or whatever? And do I end up stealing more of that volume from a Walmart, from a dollar store, from a whoever, if people can actually start buying things and, when they think about it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that there's some big opportunities around, that delayed delivery, because so often I've wanted to buy something and it's like you check it out and you're like, "Oh, but I'm either not in town or I'm not going to be home. I don't really want to bother my family or a friend or a neighbor to be like,
or you're traveling, you need it at that location, you don't need it at home." And we've talked about that kind
Yeah.
of feature as well, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna be in, Timbuktu, I need that shirt or those, shoes there at that time. I want it delivered there. I don't want them at home.
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
a great feature. I think that's something that needs to, a lot of retailers aren't doing, that I think would be a feature that people would enjoy. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to gifts and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, I think gifting, I think just better days, especially with flexible work schedules now and stuff, like these hybrid arrangements where there's a lot of work from home and not work from home. People have different days. Like, some people just prefer it. Like, I get that, like, North America is a drop and go, but I still think that from a general consumer level, nobody likes the idea of a package sitting on their doorstep for like an entire day if they can avoid it, and nobody loves it sitting there for more than a day.
How soon do you think we'll see lockers right next to the mail lockers for deliveries instead?
Well, like, I mean, there's definitely people doing it. Like I'm connected to this, well, a few people, but there's like this one guy, especially in the UK, that they've really started doing it, which is kind of cool. The only problem with that stuff, in my opinion, is like, who picks up the cost? And that's why I think the adoption in North America has been pretty bad, is because we don't really have any real restrictions. Like, it's drop and go. It's as cheap as it can get. Like, the carriers have gotten away with it. The retailers have kind of built their models around whatever's happening. Like, for you to put a piece of hardware at your door, and then there's the aesthetics, like curb appeal, like people thinking what it looks like. But like, what would it take you to put something at your door? Like, you're going to pay for it? Is it worth $100 a year to you? Is it worth $500? Like what would it take for you to actually put it there? Because today, I would just offer that you don't really have any risk if something gets stolen. The vast majority of retailers are still covering the cost if that happens.
Yeah.
Your biggest pain point would be inconvenience for the amount of times that it happens.
But theft is becoming like the retailers, cry of things of being bad. Like, what did Walmart recently release? If theft doesn't go down in their stores, because we have $4 billion worth of theft, the Walmart guy said he's gonna close all the stores because he's tired of all the thievery, or he's gonna put in like different aspects. So theft is something that is a loss of potential revenue that they're not getting for no reason at all. So I think the aesthetics, I don't think it will go out the window as they push more of these ideas forward. Be like, hey, subscribe to Amazon Prime, you get a free locker for the first year to help reduce theft.
Oh yeah,
I think that might be.
If Amazon wanted to get into it, I mean, the reality is, though, Amazon, for a ton of the people that they're already working with, like Amazon Key is a killer feature. Honestly, like, this idea that they'll give you the camera, they give you the hardware so that they can get into your garage or whatever and drop products, and it's secure that way. I think community mailboxes are one thing to do it. I mean, the clear winner, like, who should be all over this, more so here in Canada. I'm not sure how active it is in the US because I haven't seen as much, but like, obviously Canada Post should be all over it. They've already got the community mailboxes. The sad thing is that they didn't make these things like they didn't, well, bigger and more automated and more tech oriented when they had the opportunity, and they were installing them anyway. I don't know. I think it's, I think it's a mixed bag of like, what people want. Because then the thing is that you still really want to have all of the CapEx and all of the infrastructure costs of putting it at people's homes, versus what would it take to coax them to go to the nearest smart center, the nearest grocery store, the nearest wherever, where you could have a bigger locker setup that would serve more people, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would take more data. You'd have to be able to be willing to give up your own personal data of where you travel, where you go, and what you do, to be able to make it, have that pattern set up and be like, this is the most convenient spot for you to pick up stuff on your way. Or wasn't there that one, I remember for a while, Audi was teaming up with, I think, Amazon, where they could open your trunk and drop it in your trunk as you're driving.
It was part of Amazon Key, yeah, that you can give them access to your trunk too.
Yeah, and then they just kind of drop it in. I thought that was a pretty neat kind of way of looking at it. And auto stores kind of, I know 2-3 years ago were a big thing where you kind of drive through and it's like a drive-through drop too. And it's something like, come to think of it, something like McDonald's should team up with some of these people because everybody goes to a McDonald's. That should be like a drop place as well. And then get more value because you're already there. You're going to buy more things to eat as you're driving through, right?
There's
Yeah,
definitely,
no,
there's
the-
definitely
the-
not lack of opportunity. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure, right? I think everybody's just jumping on the robotics piece where it's robots delivering to your place. I don't think that's the right way
honestly,
yet.
honestly, like that's the biggest pipe dream. For as much as I love stuff, like there's no way that you can tell me that anyone will actually ever be happy with their neighborhood having hundreds of these little ridiculous robots driving around, dropping one package at a time. Like
No.
it's the most absurd thing. It's like one of those like areas where it's novel and people are testing it and trying it. But I mean,
Same goes for drones. Like you don't want 1,000 drones flying around. Yeah, like imagine the noise that you'd hear all that, the buzzing and everything. Like, it's a cool concept, but I don't think it's practical
Yeah,
in the end.
the only thing that could be interesting with drones, like aerial drones, for sure the noise has to be addressed. If they could get away with the drones, though, and it was like not disruptive because they could make them quiet enough, you could actually do all of your deliveries in the middle of the night when people are essentially sleeping, and well, not to everybody, but at least to a huge percentage of people, because everybody with a backyard becomes a really ideal candidate.
Yeah.
So I
Or-
think
or-
I
or
think
you start
aerial
put-
drones are a little bit more interesting in terms of opportunity. Little things that are sidewalk or road level that are trying to drop one package at a time are honestly a waste of time. Like the
Or-
efficiency is so dumb. It's not even realistic.
Or you start building houses with like little landing pads on top of your roof, and then it can drop the package and it goes into your into your house.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised if stuff like that starts happening, especially for apartment buildings, that they have like some kind of like little pad on the top or something. I could definitely see that being in some of the big US metros that are really dense with apartments. So
Little
I think
delivery
that,
centers.
yeah, I think that there's all kinds of interesting things that, that's another point, actually, having, in community market centers. Actually, funny enough, the random tangent because you say delivery center, but did you see the latest Costco concept?
No, I did not. I
So
was going to
Co-
actually segue into another one, but I want to hear this.
Okay, I'll drop this really quick and we can switch. But Costco is opening a new format where they're gonna have apartment buildings attached to the warehouse. So there's 800 rental units tied to the Costco building. That's the new format for Costco Urban.
Didn't Amazon say the same thing in Walmart? Wasn't there like this was like connected to like the 15-minute cities that they're trying to build? That you work and live in the same place. There was like a lot of pushback on this stuff. Like I don't think that's.
I don't know. It seems like it's coming though. Yeah, because I don't know if it was in Vancouver that I actually saw that was a Canadian thing or it was somewhere in the U.S. But it definitely seems like it's coming.
You got to be a member to be in that apartment. You don't pay your dues, they kick you out. I don't know. That's a different one for me.
Maybe. Oh, could you imagine? Oh man, actually, I hadn't really thought about how dirty would that be if it's like your rent is $1,500 a month as a Costco member and $2,500 a month if not. Like
Exactly. Right. You have to use your gift card to pay for your rent this month.
Actually,
no, the other one.
Random. In all fairness, that actually opens up a really dirty opportunity of not just your Costco membership, but it's like, yeah, your rent's $1,500 a month as long as you're spending $250 a month at Costco.
Yeah.
Dirty. Anyways, with random food for thought for people to mull over this morning. What was your thought that you wanted?
I was gonna bring on the other idea that we read this week about Tēmu should buy out Dollar General and take on those 40,000 or 20,000 stores all across as a way to get quicker access to, because it's the same demographics, not the same demographic, but the same kind of cost points for the merchandise. I think that was a pretty interesting read myself, and I thought there'd be a quick access to that logistical landscape for Tēmu to get real bigger in size in the U.S. a lot quicker.
It definitely could be interesting if they. I think they would need more of a hybrid model, though. I don't think they would want to run it. I mean, I guess if they end up owning it, it's theirs more than ever. But I think what would make it cool would be using a percentage of the stores like a discovery center, in the sense of like very like a highly rotating inventory, like changing every couple of days. You have no idea what it could be. You know what I mean? I just don't know how fast they could clear it, because you know, that's the one big advantage of e-com versus stores, is that, you know, you've got all this inventory in this one central place and you're selling lots of things to lots of different people. But you know, every area that you sell is going to be different. I just don't know if you would get enough traction or traffic to like clear out what would make the store cool, as opposed to being just like a regular store. You know, unless it just was a way to brand and get them way more familiar, and everything in the store was like essentially through their partners and through their fulfillment. I mean, it comes from China mostly anyway, all of the stuff that's in those stores.
Well, I think it's a double thing, right? Because then you can get delivery, you have a delivery area that you can work from, help reduce that cost. And also you can get more of that Dollar General stuff to the houses as well from that position, right? So you kind of team up on that. And you can have like Tēmu sections within the Dollar General is my thought, versus it just being a clear, separate, you know, or mix and match, right? You keep all the Dollar General stuff, and then you have like almost like a post office within it for Tēmu stuff, and be like, hey, you order this as well, here, pick it up.
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking. But I mean, realistically, the second that they would have those stores, any and all inventory that's in there, like why wouldn't it be all, you know, brands and stuff like that are on Tēmu, right?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I mixed bag, very interesting. So, well, we are 2 minutes over time. That actually went really quickly again today.
And David did apologize. He did have some technical issues. He's going to probably try again for next week or the week after. He would join us. He just wasn't able to because of his technological.
We should offer, if he wants to do it more as a typical podcast, that we could just put on the YouTube site if he doesn't want to do the live. Well, not that he doesn't want to do the live, but if he wants to get some stuff out in a different way too, because that's something that you and I talked about as an FYI for anyone listening. Matt and I have been talking more about having structured conversations or like, you know, planned conversations, in the sense that we could do it and just put it on YouTube, because we appreciate, you know, even to Robert's point, the live is not always something that works with everyone's schedule. You know, especially depending on the timing of whatever topics are relevant in the moment.
Exactly. Well, on that note, what's your final thoughts for the week? As you always have the last thoughts, John?
I don't have any final thoughts. I got to get into a bunch of data work, that stuff that I've been playing with the APIs with ShipHero and some of these other WMSs all caught a lot of attention. So I got to finish up some of those things. And just trying to get a heavy work weekend, get a lot of projects and tasks like a little deeper where they need to go. What about you?
Be consistent. That's the sale of the day. You be very consistent. Me, I got a whole bunch of follow up with customers and working on some customer projects that we've been working on. Some, you know, great things happening over at Monarch Connect. So I know Kat's been grinding pretty hard on all of it. So just kind of closing those things off and making things shine for Q4.
Nice. Very good. Well, with that,
awesome.
We're going to let everyone kick off their week, and I hope you have a great Monday, and I hope you have a great week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.